All right, today I'm going to be talking about the fundamentals of marksmanship and how to apply them to precision rifle shooting. The fundamentals are really a critical aspect of this. You know, at this point, you spent money on a rifle, you spent money on a scope, you bought some match ammo, and if you don't have the fundamentals down and know how to execute them properly, you're just really not going to be able to make the most out of your rifle and setup, and your time at the range. Getting the fundamentals down is really going to improve your shooting and give you the ability to make sure that you have a good zero on your gun and that you've evaluated your ammo well and that you're able to, get consistent hits on target. So if group shooting has never really been your thing and you've never done much shooting prone, then I think this could be helpful. If you bear with me and we get through this, I think you'll learn some things and you can take this into your own practice and work on the fundamentals, work on committing all this to memory and practicing it in dry fire. And I believe that, once you get this down, it will drastically improve your shooting. Give me a minute to get set up. I'm going to do the demonstration from the prone position. That's one of the most common positions for people to start learning this stuff in. So I think that's the easiest thing to recreate on your own at home. So hopefully this will give you some good insight into the fundamentals and get you ready to start practicing this stuff and preparing for, getting started long-range shooting. All right, at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to begin running through our mental checklist of the fundamentals as we get behind the gun and get prepared to take shots at the target. So the first thing you want to do is set the gun down so that it's pointed at the target. You can stand behind it, look down the length of the gun, make sure the barrel is oriented towards the target, and make any adjustments you might have to make to your shooting mat or your gun in this position, right? And once you have it to where it looks like it's pointed at the target, you're going to get down on your knees behind the gun and then lay down with your torso in line with the gun and your shoulders square behind the gun. You don't want to have your body canted off to either side behind the gun. You want to be straight behind it so you can absorb the recoil straight into your torso and have less likelihood for the gun to want to deflect off to either side as it recoils. Spread your feet out to the side some so that you have a wide base for support and you're stable. So get in this position. Make sure that your bipod legs are tall enough so that you can keep your upper part of your torso a little more upright and have room to get the gun up and properly into your shoulder pocket so that you're receiving the recoil, from the entire recoil pad. You don't want to have it down low like this and have the front end of the gun low so that you have to get down really low behind it and have the top corner of the recoil pad digging into your shoulder. So the more square you can get with it, the better. All right, so make sure your bipod legs are at the right height. Get the gun up square into your shoulder pocket. Get your rear bag set up under the stock to support it. And if you have a shooting mat with some anchor points like this, you're going to want to be able to anchor the bipod leg so that you can get a little bit of preload into it. So you want to be close enough to the gun that as you relax into it, you put just a little bit of preload on those bipod legs. If you're shooting off the dirt, you may want to get some spiked feet for your bipod if you can get them, or rock the bipod back and forth a little bit and kind of dig it in so that you can get a little bit of preload on it. It doesn't take much, but you don't want it to be completely neutral. If you've done your job correctly, setting up the scope for eye relief and setting up your cheek pad height on your stock for eye alignment, then you should be able to just rest your head on the stock and have a nice, clean, sharp image all the way around the edge of the image through the scope that you're seeing. Now you can check your natural point of aim, and your crosshairs should be on the target. If they're not, you're going to want to move your body left or right, stay in alignment with the gun, but get your crosshairs on the target so that you're not having to lean to either side and muscle the gun onto the target. So you want to make sure you take the time to get a good natural point of aim and make sure your crosshairs are vertical. And now you can adjust your magnification and your parallax. So set your magnification where you want it for the target you're going to be shooting, and then adjust your parallax to bring the target into sharp focus. Now once you have it in sharp focus, it'll be close but it may still have some parallax. So the way to check for that is to make sure the gun is supported and stable on the rear bag, and then move your eye up and down slightly behind the scope. And what you're wanting to see is the reticle stay exactly in the same position on the aiming point of the target. If you move your eye up and down and you see the reticle appear to drift a little across the target, and you know your gun isn't moving because it's stable, then you still have some parallax left to dial out. So you need to make small adjustments to your parallax knob and then check a little bit by moving your eye up and down. Take a moment to get that set properly. It'll make it a lot easier to make consistent aiming points on the target. If you don't have your parallax set properly, any inconsistency with your eye placement is going to make inconsistency on where your crosshairs are placed on the target. So dial out your parallax. Make sure you have your natural point of aim established. Make sure that you're in a good position behind the gun and you can support it with the rear bag and relax a little bit behind the gun. And then you're going to chamber around and you can establish your firing hand grip now. And what you're going to want is to be able to get a 90-degree bend in your trigger finger and have the pad of your finger across the shoe of the trigger so that you can pull straight back without influencing the gun to the left or right. You also want to make sure that your hand position vertically is in a place that allows your finger to be straight across the trigger and not so high that the top of your finger is rubbing on the stock or your knuckles hitting the bolt or something like that. So you don't want to influence the gun in any other way with your trigger finger than to just pull the trigger straight back. So for me, I need to use the pads of these three fingers and place them against the grip of the gun, and that gets my hand in the right position to get a straight, to get a straight finger across the trigger at that second knuckle bend like this. So you're going to want to put a little bit of pressure against the grip with your hand to get a firm pressure on the stock in your shoulder pocket. You can take the gun off safe. Make sure you're stable on the target. Make sure your crosshairs are vertical. Now you're going to look for your natural respiratory pause. And so that's the point where, as you exhale, you reach a natural point of relaxation where you're not having to force any air out of your lungs, but you're not holding your breath either. So you're just going to want to exhale. And when you reach that normal pause, then you're going to increase the pressure on the trigger until you break the sear. So double check everything. And at that point, you want to have proper follow through, which means you basically want to freeze everything you're doing as you break the shot, so you give the gun time to go through the firing process and get the bullet out of the barrel without moving the gun. There is enough of a delay in a rifle that if you immediately come off the trigger or change something that you're doing to the gun as you break the sear, you can influence the gun and cause yourself to miss the shot or throw a shot wide or something. So good follow through is simply maintaining everything you're doing on the gun as you break the shot, and then observing your hit on the target, and then you're ready to chamber another round and repeat the firing process. So I recommend you do this a lot in dry fire before you ever head to the range to zero your gun and start testing ammo. You really want to make sure that you put a lot of focus into this and take the time to get your process down and memorized so that you can get behind the gun, go through the whole mental checklist process, and follow the fundamentals properly. Use a small aiming reference if you have one. I like to use a fence in my backyard and aim at nail heads on it. It gives me a small aiming reference, and I can really pay close attention to what my crosshairs are doing as I'm going through this process of pressing the trigger and breaking the shot and properly following through. Do this a lot in dry fire at home, and I also recommend that when you're first learning this, after you've pressed the trigger the first time, break down your position, stand back up behind the gun, and then go through the whole process again, and do that over and over until you get this all memorized and you're comfortable, getting set up in a shooting position and going through the full process. Once you've got all this locked in and you're good to go, then you'll be more prepared to go to the range and get a good zero on your gun and evaluate your ammo and start learning to shoot long range. If you don't have a good grasp of the fundamentals and aren't able to execute this process properly, and you're not able to fire good groups and get the most out of your gun, then you're really not going to be able to establish a true zero on your rifle or really evaluate your ammo, to make sure that you're getting the best thing for your gun. So I hope this helps. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll try to get to them. Thanks.